Okay, so welcome back. We got Denial, Anger, Acceptance, episode 3. I really like this one. This is the first episode that I really enjoyed, but I gotta get it out of the way, right up front, because I forgot to do it in the last two videos. And even in like the introductory video to the series, my big issue with the whole device of Tony seeing the shrink, I don't know how I keep forgetting this. Another reason it drives me nuts is, it's a key Aaron Sorkin device. He's done it in 3 of his 4 TV shows now. And it's usually one episode instead of like a whole series, but the idea of his lead character goes to a shrink. And it happened in way back in Sports Night, it happened in The West Wing, and it happened in The Newsroom. And the episode in The West Wing, where Josh, Bradley Whitford's character, goes to see the shrink, it's the season 2 Christmas episode, Noel. That's my favorite West Wing episode ever. It's brilliant. So the idea of, and it's the same kind of thing, like, he's talking to a shrink in the first scene, and you get the flashback structure. It's essentially the pilot of Sopranos, but done way better. So I've just seen that structure done a lot from Sorkin, who's one of my favorite writers, and I don't like it in Sopranos as much. This one, it worked a lot better. It's actually more of a character seeing a shrink kind of story as opposed to just a narrative framing device, so I really like that. So moving on to the actual episode. I'm smoking in this vlog for the first time, so welcome to the smoking vlogs. Alright, so Denial, Anger, Acceptance. This is the episode where Tony... Well, there's like 4 things going on. Tony's wife, Carmelo, Edie Valco, is throwing a dinner party for her friends, their friends, the restaurant guys, from the first episode that got blown up. And there's lots of interplay with servants and leaders, and there's a little bit of Shakespeare finally, like a little bit of the royalty thrown in, which I always like in mob stories. I liked that story pretty good. Love the scene where Tony and the cook have the food fight in the kitchen. I like a little playfulness. On the mob side of things, so I'm starting to see more and more. It's family story, mob story. So the family story is the restaurant, dinner party thing. The mob story this time around is, well, it's kind of twofold. The de facto leader of the gang, the one who's sick with cancer, is really sick with cancer, and he's in prison. There's a lot of good scenes, funny and dramatic, in the prison. He's in the hospital with cancer. There's a couple of good scenes, funny and dramatic, with Tony visiting the guy in the hospital, talking about life and death and what's going on, and it's all subtle. They don't actually talk about life and death, talk about other stuff, but that's well done. And like the action or the real gangster plot going on is they try to go talk to these Jewish guys and get a Jewish guy's son-in-law to divorce his daughter without taking any kind of like bribe for it. The son-in-law wants to get like 50% of this hotel business. So Tony and the guys go and they beat this guy up and try to get him to quit, or to just do the divorce and not take any money, just to walk away. And he stands by it. He won't do it. He stands by his honor, and he feels like he deserves to get some money, and I like that. I agree with him, because, based on what he says anyway, he was a good husband, he sent her places, he worked at the hotel, so why should he give it up with no money? Plus, I'm pretty sure that actor is the same guy from The Departed who gets shot by DiCaprio, like in the middle of the movie, and he always made me laugh, so I like that actor. And I'm pretty sure Drea DiMartino shows up. That's Jax's like first like crackhead kind of wife from Sons of Anarchy. So I love the fact that this show is just like a bunch of really good actors showing up in little parts. So yeah. Oh, there's one more story. Oh, Tony's daughter, Meadow, her name is Meadow. Tony's daughter is in the choir, she's studying for the SATs, and it's a little bit of like the high school scenes in this. I'm like, oh Jesus, we're gonna waste time on the high school drama, but there's some good scenes with her trying to get speed from Tony's nephew, Michael Imperioli, and he's becoming my favorite character, which is probably, if I did some research, I assume he's a fan favorite. He's really good. Really good in the show. He's a good writer. He wrote Sons of Anarchy. No, he wrote Summer of Sam, I'm sorry. Plus, he was Spider Rico back in Goodfellas, so it's nice to see him doing stuff. So yeah, that's the synopsis. Really liked the show this time. I gotta say that I haven't had that I'm in love with this show moment, or I'm in love with this character moment, which we're 3 episodes in. I usually, with a show that I end up loving, I fall in love with it within the first 3 or 4 episodes. So I'm surprised that I haven't had that like crystallizing moment. Even Breaking Bad, I watched the first couple episodes. There's a moment in the pilot where Walter White is getting diagnosed with cancer, and his doctor's got a mustard stain on his shirt, and Walter's like, "You've got mustard on your shirt." For some reason, the way Bryan Cranston played that moment, I was like, all right, I'm in love with Walter White. I'm not in love with Tony Soprano yet. I liked him a lot in this episode more than before. My favorite scene in the episode, well, there's two. My favorite scene in the middle of the episode is where Tony and the guys are trying to beat down the Jewish guy so he'll walk away from the marriage. And they call Tony in because he won't give up. And there's a pretty cool back and forth exchange about, like, you're really fucking hard-headed, you know? Like, a lot of guys be happy to get divorced. And this guy has this little soliloquy, the Jewish guy has a soliloquy about, back in the day, like 900 Jews stood against 15,000 Romans, and they would never give in. And look what the Romans, you know, where are they today? And Tony's like, you're looking at them. That was a nice moment. There's a lot of really good dialogue in the show. And then the other favorite scene, and the sequence that made me love, like, not love the show, really like the show now, is the ending, which is Tony's daughter at the school choir singing a song, and she's got a solo, and Tony comes in late, and that's all intercut with a bunch of dramatic stuff. You see Christopher. Yeah, Christopher. You see Christopher getting beaten up, clearly because Uncle Junior is pissed, and for the first time, Tony's mother is used properly in the series. Just as, like, this older woman who kind of has a little bit of wisdom and experience, and she's not a big driving force, nor is she annoying and, like, cliched old lady. In fact, the way she's characterized in this episode did not feel like the same character from the previous two. So it kind of feels like shitty writing to me, but I'm cool with it because I like this better. And Uncle Junior, assuming he's a villain, is a really good villain. I like him so far. I like the fact that there's somebody against Tony within the family that's older than him. It's a little bit of Hamlet, pretty much, because I think that, yeah, that's Tony's father's brother, and Tony's father was the younger son, and they passed over Uncle Junior, and it's very, very, you know, Hamlet kind of stuff, and I love Hamlet story plots. So yeah, the end sequence. Singing the song, it's intercut with Tony watching the song and getting all emotional, because he loves his daughter, and that's intercut with Michael Imperioli getting beaten up because Uncle Junior's pissed at him for going outside of his bounds, and then Michael Imperioli's partner, who I never liked anyway, getting shot in the bathtub. And it was that I liked that sequence too. That was the first, like, real gangster kind of, like, cold-blooded thing that I saw in the series. I liked it, and it's a fairly. I realized watching this, like, talking about the shows made me think about why I love TV and analyze a bit more, and that sequence made me realize that a lot of my favorite moments in television and movies is when they incorporate music with imagery and make it a montage of sorts. I mean, if you look at Goodfellas, maybe the best sequence in that movie, and therefore one of the best sequences of all time, is the Layla sequence, where, you know, Clapton's Layla piano section of that song plays, and it cuts to all the bodies being found and discovered across the city. So, in this episode, yeah, this is the episode that I fell in love with. It's the first episode I really like in the series. And what do you know, the climax is a very sweet musical number with a lot of things going on, and the stakes are being raised, and there's juxtaposition, and it's, you know, it's a fairly cliche thing, I'm realizing, but I can't help it, it works, and I like it. In fact, Community, a show that I stopped watching when they fired Dan Harmon, the episode where I fell in love with that show is the episode where Donald Glover and whatever, Neo and Troy, or Troy and Abed, I mean, or Troy and Abed sing the song to the rat, but it's intercut with the dance, which is intercut with, like, Allison Bree's thing. Like, I like it when music is overlaid with a bunch of characters doing a lot of stuff. So, yeah, it makes sense. My cigarette went out. So, yeah, it makes sense that that's the moment when I love the show, or that I fell in love with the show. What else did it talk about? Everybody's still brilliant in acting-wise. The direction's still better. There's a lot of weird moments I'm realizing with the show framing-wise, and I dig it. It's very gangster-esque, you know. Like, people say Goodfellas works because Scorsese shot it like a gangster, broke all the rules. But there's a lot of frames in this where, like, when they're hanging around talking business, where they'll cut to Soprano, James Gandolfini, and it's really close up, and at this goofy angle, and you'll see Tony just, boom, the camera's right there. And it's jarring and a little bit obvious. It pulls you out of the moment, but I still like it. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for this episode. I'm finally starting to get I've actually been watching one episode a day, not just posting the videos, I'm actually watching one a day, but for the first time I'm excited to continue watching. I'll record a few early on, so you'll probably see a few different videos. This shirt, this angle, I'm not going to move the camera, because I actually want to start kind of binge watching the show. What else? Oh, you know what? There was one other thing I didn't like, which is sort of the culmination of the dinner party story. Is the restaurant chef, his wife, doesn't want that like their family to get involved with the Sopranos on a money level, and Mrs. Soprano's kind of like a bitch, sort like subtly a bitch, to the chef's wife, and does this like kind of like you're my servant, come hither kind of thing during the dinner party. So the wife's way of getting revenge or for like making her point to Mrs. Soprano that she's not just another like woman who's going to be in debt to the Sopranos. She tells this story about how back in the day, before Tony and Carmela were married, this lady had sex with Tony. It's weird. It felt like one of those forced, very 90s, like, we don't know how to write women characters very well unless they're having sex with the men characters, unless they're a wife or a girlfriend. Ugh. I didn't like that moment. It's one of my like most hated cliches is the plot twist of like, oh, they had sex with somebody way a long time ago and now it matters. But it doesn't. It was like 20 years ago. Like, who gives a damn? Especially because Tony has, a mistress, and I'm assuming Carmela knows this. Like, they hinted at it in the first episode. Yeah, in the first episode that he's cheated before. He's a gangster. It should be part of the territory. You know what you're getting. Which, I mean, I don't want to turn this into the House of Cards vlog, but I just finished season 2 yesterday, and I totally want a new House of Cards vlog, because it's one of the best shows ever. But I love the way that show handled the idea of, like, a married couple who have extramarital affairs, because they're kind of cool with it. They know the score. Like, they're hurt deep down, and it is kind of a bummer sometimes that they cheat on each other, but it's not like a huge plot point in the show that the husband had sex with somebody else. Unless you're making a relationship drama TV show or movie, I don't want to see relationship plots take over the episode, take over the show. This is a gangster show, right? So I'll even accept the metaphor of the family being his actual family and the mob. Totally cool with that. They're doing it better now. I actually like the daughter. I like Meadow. She's a good actress. And if that was her voice, a very good singer. It felt like, she looked different this episode. Did they recast her from the pilot? I don't know. I'll look that up at some point. But, so yeah. That's pretty much all I got to say for this episode. And I guess it's a good thing that I like Meadow now, because the next episode is called Meadowland, episode 4. So, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow with the next one. And, yeah, I'm excited for the show now. So, I hope you guys still watching and enjoying it. And that's all. TTFN.